Meeting to order. Highways and Buildings, Thursday, December 13th, 2018. We'll have a roll call.
Mr. Tripp,
Present.
Mr. Kinzinger,
Present.
Mr. Washington, Mr. Hess,
Present.
Mr. Tholen, Ms. Polk, Mr. Snipes,
Present.
Ms. Peters,
Present.
Mr. Ritter, Mr. Zenz,
Present.
Ms. Haas,
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff,
Present.
Mr. Featherling,
Present.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Wheeler.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Okay. We'll have approval of minutes from November 15th, 2018. They'll be in order. There, Ms. Peters, second to that, Ms. Haas. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Highways, Mr. Mark.
We have no bidding and lettings this morning. I do have a few pay estimates. And for the new members, if they have any questions, please ask. The first pay estimate I have this morning is for the county's general maintenance for 2018. This is payable to Kankakee Valley Construction Company. This is for Easy Fiber cold mix that we pick up at their plant, and that amount is $1,270.75. Next is for the county's general maintenance for 2018, supplement 1, payable to Potter Industries. For glass beads, these are the glass beads that are used in paint when we do the striping for reflectivity, and that amount is $3,576.00. Next is Kankakee Road District for their 2018 general maintenance supplement 1. This is payable to Sicalco. This is for liquid calcium chloride. This is a de-icing agent that they spread on the roads or add to salt, and that amount is $845.80. And the last one I have is for Pembroke Road District for their 2018 general maintenance supplement 2, payable to the Pembroke Township Road District Treasurer. This is for equipment rental. Equipment rental is hours that the township can charge to MFT for using their own equipment, and that money goes to the township into their highway fund for their purposes. And that amount is $6,142.32.
Okay, a motion to approve these, Mr. Kinzinger.
I can make the motion. I also have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, there's a second to the motion. Mr. Hess, the question.
Point of information, 12,000, I assume that's pounds for the beads?
Yes.
12,000 pounds, 29 cents.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, there'll be, Mr. Snipes.
Just checking, I know you said $845 and said 80 cents, but I'm reading 88 cents.
Yes, it is 88 cents.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Tripp,
Aye.
Mr. Kinzinger, Mr. Hess,
Aye.
Mr. Snipes,
All right.
Ms. Peters,
Aye.
Mr. Zenz,
Aye.
Ms. Haas,
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff,
Aye.
Mr. Featherling,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler. Motion carries.
I have two resolutions this morning. The first one is a resolution appropriating funds for a bridge to be constructed in Bourbonnais Township Road District. This bridge is located on Larry Power Road, just east of Bradley. And Bourbonnais Township is going to use your township bridge program funds to pay 80%. They petitioned us last year for to split their local cost 50-50. And so we are appropriating $50,000 for county bridge funds for paying 50% of the cost of construction to match their $50,000.
Okay, we need a motion to approve. Mr. Featherling, is there a second to that motion? Mr. Hess, we'll have to have a roll call on that.
Mr. Tripp,
Aye.
Mr. Kinzinger,
Aye.
Mr. Hess,
Aye.
Mr. Snipes,
All right.
Ms. Peters,
Aye.
Mr. Zenz,
Aye.
Ms. Haas,
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff? Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Carries. Okay,
And the next resolution is a resolution authorizing the county board chairman to sign an engineering agreement and appropriate county bridge funds to match Junior Township Road District local funds to construct a bridge in Junior Township. This bridge is located on 2000 North, which is North Street, east of town, actually east of X-Line. The Junior Township petitioned us for aid, and we believe that bridge is probably going to cost about $350,000. And so they can petition us for assistance, that we would pay 50% of the local share. And so I'm recommending that we approve the petition and that we use $35,000 of bridge funds for paying 50% of the cost of construction to be matched by Junior Township Road District.
okay, is there a motion to approve? Mr. Eckhoff, and the second, Mr. Snipes. We'll have a roll call vote.
Mr. Tripp?
Aye.
Mr. Kinzinger?
Aye.
Mr. Hess?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Ms. Peters? Mr. Zenz? Ms. Haas? Mr. Eckhoff? Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
Any other questions? Mr. Oltoff, you had some questions here. Would you have any? Okay. Oh, you were just asking Mr. Kinzinger.
Merry Christmas.
Trying to recognize you. Okay, well, we're not. We still got the committee going. Building's coming up.
I don't know if I'm gonna be able to top 7 minutes.
Hey, moving along.
All right.
No, don't try.
All right.
Do what you have to do.
All right. Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Let's see here. Facility Dude report for the month of November, and for the new members of the committee, Facility Dude is our software system that we use for all of our work orders in the maintenance department. Most everyone has access to it. Work orders go in, and then we obviously handle them on a case-by-case basis. So for the month of November, we had 151 work orders in the system, which is right about average for any given month. Moving on to the financial report, you've got a summary in front of you there. I'll go building by building and kind of outline some of the expenditures. You'll see for the admin building, we totaled about $5,300 worth of expense for the month of November. Some of that was $558 for light bulbs. We stock light bulbs here for all the buildings. So that was $558. $1,569 was for a John Deere tractor repair and a new brush, which we talked about at this committee in previous months. Outside contractor work for 5th floor, $610 for the repair of a condenser unit. That was back from August. And then again on the 5th floor, Anita was freezing up there, so I had to spend $300 to get Anita some heat on the north end of 5. So that totals about 3,000 of the 5, so that should give you a pretty good idea of what's been going on here in the last month. Out at Jerome Combs, you'll see we had $9,900 worth of expense there, and I'll just go through a couple of the larger ticket items. And if you have any questions, please stop me. We had about $700 worth of repairs to a John Deere tractor. Hydraulic systems on it weren't working, and that's a major piece of equipment that we use in the winter months for clearing snow. Garage door in phase 3 was $1,800. Again, we talked about that at committee. That's the new door, mechanical door that we put in phase 3. We had just some other issue or things there. We had some mixing valves, thermostatic mixing valves, which was about $1,100. Those are quite expensive. They're mixing valves that regulate the temperature that comes out in the showers. So when you hit the button, showers turn on, it's preset to a desired temperature. They don't have access to turn it up and down. So those mixing valves are quite expensive. We had a couple of those that we had to purchase. And then just some outside contractor work there as well, which totaled about $1,500, and that was for generators, plumbing repairs, HVAC repairs out at Jerome Combs. At the old jail, you'll see we had about $5,800 in expense there, and the lion's share of that was another cell motor. We've talked about cell motors at this committee in months past. They're old, they burn up. $2,000 every time they burn up. So that was another cell motor that was purchased and installed by my staff. Any questions on the financial report?
Mr. Kensinger has been.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've been looking at these now for about a year, and every month I come in, they're brand new, and I have no idea what occurred previously. Does our software allow us to do a month-to-month year comparison and even a year-to-date? Now, I know maintenance is hit and miss, but it may give us a feel as to, hey, we're spending a lot of money somewhere that we should be looking at.
Right.
Can the software allow us to do that?
Well, the process is I get the claims together, I approve them, and I bring them out to Amy out at Jerome Combs, and she puts the spreadsheets together for me. So yeah, I suppose I could have her see if she could add, some comparison type
Well,
stuff.
just, month to month, what this month compared to last month, and
yeah.
maybe year to dates. Now, if it's a big deal,
Right.
But I think sometimes it helps us understand we got a problem somewhere.
Yeah, they should be pretty similar, obviously, you
Yeah.
would think, because a lot of our maintenance
That's right.
contracts come due at certain times of the year, so that's a good idea. I'll make a note of that.
Okay, Mr. Hess, you had a question?
Thank you, Chairman. Wes, yesterday the sheriff mentioned about the phone system out there. Do we have any tie lines between the sheriff's office and coming here for computers, or maybe this question's for Kevin?
Yeah, that's probably a better question for him. I'm not familiar with that.
I mean, if their phone system goes down, does that cut us off?
Not to my knowledge. In my months here, I haven't had any. No one's brought that to my attention that there would be any issues of any kind.
Okay, thank you.
I could probably at least say when we lost our phones, it didn't affect
Right.
them, so I would imagine that it probably is not that case. I think it's two separate systems, but we'll get the correct answer.
I
for
was
sure.
just wondering about the tie lines, the computer system and
Yeah,
everything else for the heat and
I thought
everything.
they're totally isolated. I believe.
Okay.
I'm not on our network for certain reasons, but we'll get the for sure answer.
Mr. Olthoff?
Just wondered if there much vandalism by the inmates?
No, I mean, most of our repairs that we have are, I would just consider them ordinary wear and tear.
Okay.
Leaky toilets, leaky faucets, that kind of stuff.
Mr. Zenz?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You just have to pardon my ignorance with the first time going through these numbers and such.
Sure.
With the cell motors, are those warranted in any kind of way, or are those kind of run to fail?
They run to fail.
Yeah.
And, a lot of them in that building are original, 1970. I don't remember what the plaque says in the building, but they're quite old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Snake, did you have a question? You had your hand up there at one. Okay. Any other questions? Go ahead.
All right, moving on to a building report. We'll start off here at 189. We met with everybody in the building here over the last month, Chad Gessner and I, Chad from the Sheriff's Department, in putting together, some emergency preparedness type stuff, which I thought was excellent. Chad brought up a lot of good points. Everything, go over any type of emergency type event, from fire to active shooter, anything you come up with. And, Chad was very helpful in a lot of ideas, as to, what we should be doing here, going over exit plans. And I have a laundry list of stuff that I'm going to be putting together and submitting to each department head in the building, that they can then disseminate to their employees. So, it's not anything that's going to be fixed overnight or plans that are going to be put into action overnight, but it's things that are important. And, I'm, very happy that we went through the process, with the sheriff's department. So I'll have more information on that in the coming months, but that did happen. And I think the response from all the departments that attended was very positive. Coney Elevators here today. They're doing our 5-year test on our elevators. We had a minor issue with a fire alarm that was tended to by Protection Associates earlier this week. We went through our annual fire alarm testing this past month with an outside contractor, and we passed with flying colors. There were no issues with our system. The maintenance staff is putting in framing out a small wall and a swinging door in the assessor's office. He'd asked for, again, it was a security type issue. People seem to be walking, right into the assessor area. So at a minimum of expense, our staff is framing out a wall, going to drywall it. I think, not considering labor, total cost is going to be probably $100, to get that done. So Bill is working on that right now. And then something that I'm working on, I've got ComEd coming out in January. I think January 24th they're going to come out, and I'm going to go through all the buildings with them. Our energy bills here are quite high, especially out at Jerome Combs. Obviously it's a big building, but I think there's things that we may be able to do, and I'm just scratching the surface of it right now. But I don't know if we qualify for any type of grants or monies of any kind, but you don't know unless you ask. So I'm going to meet with them. We're going to go through all of our buildings in late January. Moving on to the courthouse, we had some issues last month. Obviously it's an old building. I got my fingers crossed. We've got a second floor drain line for a toilet that is in really bad shape. We had an outside contractor come in. They cameraed the line, and the way he explained it to me, he said, "Wes, that line is so old, it's almost corroded. It's like sandpaper. So when things are flushed, it creates issues." So we've got it clear for now. Hopefully it stays clear, because if we continue to have issues, I really don't want to have to go tearing into walls or anything like that. So that's something just to make the committee aware of. ADA, we've talked about ADA, I think, at each meeting for the last several months. Andy and I and others had what I thought was a very good conference call with the Attorney General's office. I think we're going to come to an agreement on all of the ADA things that we've been working on there. And Andy, I don't know if you want to elaborate on anything else other than if you agree the meeting was encouraging.
Yeah, just basically the drawings that we had sent in are requiring a few revisions, some clarifications, some turning radius documentation, some things like that. But we're another 10 steps closer than we were last week. So I think there's a sense that there's a few stumbling blocks, if you will, some things we have to really work through. But I see resolution on the horizon. Right. I see that potentially, when warm weather hits, we can address the ramp outside, and then maybe even before the snow flies, we can get inside and do the ADA courtroom next year. So we're somewhat limited, on time and schedules and court cases, but it'd be nice to be able to do this stuff over a shutdown. Right. When we're looking at that, we don't want to do it and disrupt. But I'd say I'm very encouraged by the tone of the AG's office. Yeah. They want. This has been 10 plus years. I think you guys that have been here that long, they want to see it resolved as well, but they're going to make sure we do it right in a meticulous manner. So
yeah, I feel like we have some good momentum for sure. So hopefully that continues. We've also talked about in previous meetings. We applied for a grant with the state. That information was all filled out. I met with Doug Bright. He and I put some budget numbers together for those repairs, and that was all finished, completed, and sent off. So, have our fingers crossed there for sure.
Just so I could clarify also, Mr. Chairman, it's anything to do with the ADA, and then also the slope steps, which is also an ADA issue going in, because we've talked about that stuff here. I want to mention that. And then the curb and sidewalk that is sunken, that's also a safety risk as well, especially when the ADA parking, where it's located, people would have to encounter that. So it's really all tied together in some of our accessibility issues. Because the other stuff is not cheap as well. That sidewalk and curb is pretty expensive.
Right.
Okay, any other questions?
All right, moving on to the old jail and annex. I continue to work with Coney Elevator. At last month's meeting, I talked about a noise that the elevator was making. They come out, they looked at it, they made some minor repairs. It's still, I don't want to blow this out of proportion. It's not, it's not a terrible noise, but it's making a noise nonetheless. And given the money we just spent on the elevator, I would like it to work properly. So I had Coney in my office last week. We talked about it again. They've got some ideas. They're gonna send somebody back out. So we continue to work on that. We've had some boiler issues at the annex. It always seems, and this I think is historic. It's been a historical problem. Brian has talked about it in the past as well. It's a very old boiler. It goes out from time to time, and I don't have any notification of that. So, I have access at home, and I check it a couple times a weekend. But if it goes out at 10 o'clock at night, by the time I check it, maybe at 3 or 4 the next day, that building's pretty cold. So I met with the company that handles our controls for the building, and they've set me up with an alarm. So now if that boiler goes out, I get an email, my phone dings, I can see it, and then I can make some adjustments in my program, to at least keep that building, from getting down to 55 degrees, which is where it's going to go if the boiler goes out. So that's been an issue over there. Hopefully we've got an action plan where that's not going to be an issue going forward. Other than that, at the old jail, it's pretty typical stuff. Leaky toilets, leaky pipes, leaking showers. When they spring a leak, we fix it. Out at Jerome Combs, we had some issues with the Phase 2 generator that were addressed, and we talked about that in the financial report. The garage, like I said, is now operational. Other than that, it's again just normal stuff. It seems every other day you've got a toilet that's leaking or a faucet that's leaking or something like that, and our staff is very good at addressing that in a timely manner. I am working with corrections right now on a solution for the showers. We've been using shower curtains, and the shower rods break. They just don't hold up very well. When they break, we got to keep drilling new holes in the concrete. So I'm working with them on a swinging door type solution. So that's something, again, it's going to take many months to put it together, but I've been working with Chad and his staff out there to hopefully come up with some sort of plan for that. Other than that, we're juggling time off with the holidays. Our staff is what it is. When we have people off work, we have people come cover whatever building is short. We have people that cover multiple buildings in a day sometimes if we have people off, and my staff has been, outstanding. Whatever I need, whatever I ask, they do it. They take initiative. They come in at 5 o'clock to clear the road or clear the sidewalks, and I don't really have any complaints. They've really done an outstanding job. They do whatever I ask, and they've been very helpful with me. I feel like, I don't know how long I've been here now, but I feel like I've got a pretty good hold on things, and they've been very helpful in, assisting me, with the ins and outs of all these buildings. So that's all I got.
Any questions or comments? I have a question. I ask this periodically. Do we have any kind of a organized preventive maintenance program, computerized, something that'll print out every month that do this?
No, I've got a spreadsheet that I work off of that I look at often. We call it the Bible, and I have everything there in one location.
I just think we need to think about it and work towards that, and if we can get people to do that at that program out there at the campus for years, it was something that just did us a lot of good. You don't have breakdowns in the middle of the night because you caught it during the week.
Right.
A bad belt or a bearing going out or something like that.
Yeah, so, the annex was a thermocouple issue. They and I had a contractor come out and look at it, and they installed a heavier duty thermocouple to hopefully not have this issue moving forward.
Yeah, just air handlers.
Right.
And the other thing, when I think about it, and it's an important one, is the what's the name of the disease that causes a lung disease that they've had some problem with? It's caused in the air handlers in pardon? No, Legionnaires, and that is caused by water laying in the air handlers and puddling, and Ron, you have a comment? No. Oh, okay. I just think these are things that need to be looked at.
Absolutely.
And preventive maintenance. It just
Absolutely.
okay.
I
That's
got it right
enough
here.
said for that. Okay,
You got one more.
one more. Mr. Zenz.
Hi, just regarding that boiler, have you seen an increase in the preventative maintenance schedule for that particular boiler that you were talking about? Like, say over the last couple of years, has the your budget item toward that boiler been exponentially increasing, say over the last 2-3 years?
I from what my discussions with the previous director, it sounds like it's been an every year issue with the thermocouple.
Yeah.
So that's something that I've asked. We had Precision Piping out to look at it, and I asked them. Obviously this is not a good policy moving forward. We can't continue to have this issue.
Right.
So they're working on some ideas to hopefully straighten this out.
Maybe something like a retrofit of some sort.
Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Eckhoff.
First question I have is, how many employees do you have in your department?
10.
And how many usually are here at the county building, Jerome Combs?
We've got 2 here at the county building. We have 2 at the courthouse. We have 2 at the annex building and the old jail. They cover both buildings. And then we have 3 out at Jerome Combs, the public safety building, the morgue, and then we have a courier that handles the mail delivery.
Okay. And the annexation building is the one next to the courthouse, right?
The old jail.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Kensington? Kensinger?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have an old jail listing also. What's that?
That's the old jail next to the annex building.
But, it's next to it. Oh, so I guess I better drive by there.
Yeah. You've got the annex building where you've got probation, and then right next door you've got the old jail.
Thank you.
Right on the corner.
Yep, thanks.
Okay. Mr. Wheeler.
Just real quick for people that, or folks that are new to the board,
Thank you.
and we've talked about PM a lot in the past, and replacing things before they completely break down. When we were 2 years ago, we were $4.7 million in the hole on the general fund. It was pretty much repair it when it breaks, because you didn't have money. You have to borrow money to go buy something. And so now that we're going to be out of the hole, we're going to start looking at the things like Mr. Tripp is talking about, trying to address things. But when you were putting Band-Aids on everything and limping along, and waiting until that roof finally just started leaking right when it started to do damage, I mean, it was a bad place to be. We knew that we were in a death spiral, and there was nothing we could do about it. And it ended up with, instead of fixing a air handler unit for say $5,000, we're paying 40 when it completely went out, and that's what
Right.
Mr. Tripp is talking about.
I mean, we do have preventative maintenance on our generators, that regularly scheduled maintenance on them. We have regularly scheduled maintenance on our elevators that we've discussed. But absolutely, I mean, if I have money to do a regular preventative maintenance type schedule on our air handling systems, our pumps for our boilers, I mean, yeah, that I'd be all in favor.
We had, of course, a lot more, but when we had one person assigned to that, and you got an air handler stuck up in behind here somewhere, and you don't even see it until something goes bad.
Right.
And then you're up there clambering around trying to get it done. But this guy would check everything on that computerized list every month, and some would be serviced every 3 months.
Right.
And well, you know about it.
Well, that would
I'd
obviously
just like
limit.
to work towards getting that.
Right.
And if we need to come up with something extra, we don't have any extra, I know.
We're a couple years away from extra.
Yeah, okay, but let's keep that in mind
Yeah,
as we look ahead.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's important.
yeah. Did I say old business? New business. Mr. Snipes.
Thanks. I got 2 questions. One is on the sheriff complex out there, when is that bond expiring, or when is that building gonna be paid off? How many more years do we have on that? 2024?
Yeah.
Okay, is that tied to a bond?
That is a bond.
It is a bond? Okay, and the reason I asked that question is because I'm, not now, but in the future, is to plan on looking at, rejuvenation of the, courthouse, a building costs and things of that nature, because technically, when one bond expires, all you need, you don't need to go for referendum. You just need to have a bond attached to it or whatever. So I'm looking to probably look now while we're at 2018 and 2019 into 2024 to see basically looking at the expansion of the courthouse, because when I walk in and I'm seeing some things deteriorating and things of that nature, certainly we want to preserve it. But in this technological society or whatever, if we had to do this, we had to come through marble walls and things of that nature. I think we need to kind of have a foresight, proactive approach to looking at it. And then because we can tie it to a bond, if that expires, that would be a great opportunity to kind of visit the courthouse as a next expenditure, whether as if we look at it and make sure that things are feasible, look at the costs and all that, and go forward in that direction.
Okay.
Thanks.
Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you. I guess a couple things. First of all, those discussions are already happening.
Yeah.
It is an alternate revenue bond, so you just can't replace it with a non-alternate revenue bond. Those bonds were floated based on revenue coming from the sheriff's department, so you can't just replace it without it going to referendum. But there are other things that we could do and should do, and we're talking about those right now. The question is we have another bond that's out there that has to be paid off. It's for all the CourtView software that was obsolete the day after we bought it, and we bonded it for roughly 20 years, which was to me a ridiculous waste of money. But we still have to pay for that, and it's sizable so all this could be wrapped up into a long-range plan, and that's something that Anita and I and Steve are working on that will bring to the board once we have an idea, because you can't just plan for this year. You got to look at 2, 5, and 10. And so we got to bring, and it's a great way to look at that, Mr. Snipes. I will totally agree, because with tax caps that will completely fall back down, and you can't recapture that, that revenue, that bond money, the alternate revenue bond money, so it would just go away, which is great for the taxpayers. But then how do you survive as a county government by doing that? So we'll talk about that. We're not just going to go out and buy a building because we want to buy a building to keep the taxes high. There would have to be a legitimate reason that the benefit to the community would benefit from. So it's kind of where we're at. We just have to start now in order to look at that 24.
That's what I'm saying, 2024. And then the long range, not a real long range though, but it's kind of out a little bit where it can give us the thing. And the benefit it can easily be attributed to the community or whatever, because that courthouse is used for marriages, for everything that you can think of. So to look at just the benefit of it, I think we can substantiate it. What we will be looking at is a revenue source to kind of tie to that bond in order to kind of make it happen is what I'm looking at. But thanks for the information that you all are kind of looking at it. That's
Okay. Thank you. Now I guess to have to other business. Any other business? Okay, a motion to adjourn will be in order. Ms. Peters, second. Mr. Snipes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's go home.